Hello, my name is Michaela and thank you so much for clicking on my channel. I just did this look, which is a 90s grungy smoky eye using some of my favorite Pat McGrath shadows. I will have all of the products written in the description bar below. I've purchased all of these with my own money, so it's just something that I chose to use today, but you can use whatever you have that you enjoy. But this will just show you some technique for how to do a fun smoky eye that's a little bit more modern, but with a little vintage inspired twist. So please keep watching. So for this 90s grungy smoky eye, I was inspired by a few different types of colors. First, the Moonlit Seduction palette by Pat McGrath. Ignore the messiness of it. I was really inspired by this color right here, which is not your traditional smoky color. It's like a red-brown with a little bit of a blue-green shift. I also love some of these light sparkly colors. It's like a clear that turns plummy or purpley, and then this dark gray-brown as a base underneath this one. So I'm going to focus on those today, but I did want to show you some other options. Again, reminder, smoky eye is a technique, not a color, so you can choose any color that you would like to create your smoky eye. I also really love this color from Sephora collection, which I don't have a lot of their products, but this one's almost a chocolatey brown. It's called Shock Chalk, and it has pinky gold reflect in it. So really enjoy those colors. So I'm going to play around with those today. I'll put a base down first just to make sure everything lasts all day long and show you some good techniques around creating a smoky eye with a different color than just black and gray. Okay, I've primed my eyes with my favorite eyeshadow base. It is the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base. Just clear, super easy to use. I just threw a couple dots on my eyes and blended it in with my fingers. This will make my eyeshadow last all day long and also give just a more blurred, smooth finish. I like to put it underneath my eye right here to prevent any concealer creasing as well. I will also use one for color, but two for longevity. This is Danessa Myricks. It's their Colorfix. It's like a very intense cream pigment. This is the color Exposed, which is the perfect cool tone brown. It still has a little bit of warmth to it, but it's almost like a contour shade. So I use this for the base of a lot of my eyeshadow looks, and I like to use a kind of fluffy brush that's synthetic because this is a cream. This is, I believe, the 266 synthetic from MAC. And I just dip a little bit into my hand like this. You don't need much, as you can see I put way too much even with that tiny dot. And this is going to be what I use to kind of sketch out the shape that I'm going to want. So I'm going to look in a mirror here, and I'm going to place this first all over the eyelid because I will be putting shadow everywhere. And then working my way up. And I'm going to want to lift up and pull out, and I'm also going to want to, and if you have too much you can go like that, I'm also going to want to follow the natural shape of my brow. So where it arches up, my shadow is going to follow that a little bit, and then it's going to even out straighter up in here. I want the most product to be down here, so that's why I started lower down and then buffed my brush off, and then I can work my way out. You can also, because it's a cream, lightly use your hand to blend, but then you can kind of see what shape you're creating. I had a question of how to do a modern eyeshadow on a hooded eye. My eye is partially hooded, so you can see a little bit of my eyelid when I look straight, but not a ton, and I do have a lot of lid space, so I don't have a super deep crease, so this part right here doesn't go in a ton. So I'm doing this shape for me, but this will also really work on someone with a hooded eye, since that was one of the questions, because when you have a hooded eye, when you look straight, you can't see a lot of this, so you have to go a lot higher up than you would normally think. So this is a modern way of doing a smoky eye, and again, it is vintage inspired in the 90s way, but if you use this technique on really any eye shape, it can be beautiful. You're going to be going past your natural crease. So again, just making sure that's nice and blended. I do like to take a little bit onto my brush as well and do the underneath. And I also make sure that's blended lower than you think because we're going for grungy today. If you wanted a little bit more polished, you could keep it up close, but I mean, even that is a soft smoky eye in technique. So again, smoky is about the definition spreading out like how smoke works. So the darkness is going to be closer to your eye, and then it's going to kind of blow out into this really natural where you can't see the edges of it. I'm going to match this up on the other eye, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that I've got those matched up, we can go on to our next step. So there's a couple things you can do depending on how dark you want the smoky eye. If you would like it pretty deep, you could start with your eyeliner right now and actually kind of go in and start and then blend with your finger. I'm going to do that just to show that technique, but you don't have to do this. So if you do not want it as dark, you could skip this step. This is actually the lip pencil from MAC in the color Chestnut, but I like to use it as a soft eyeliner. And I'm just going to messily draw this. You do not have to do this very well. And I'm just doing this for darkness. I'm not trying to make a magical shape. I'm just wanting to make sure that it's nice and deep, right close to the lash line. So super messy, as you can see. Then I'm just going to take my finger and buff this out. You could use a brush if you're more comfortable, but you want something pretty dense that's going to blend this where you want it. So I used a color that's pretty subtle because it is a brown, not a black. You could totally do black if you wanted. But this is just going to add depth underneath our next shadow. Let me match this up. Okay, there you go. So super messy, but ready to go. Now I'm going to do kind of my structure of my eye. I personally like to add a little extra into the crease and then on the outer corner to give us a base. And what I'm going to do is take that color from that Pat McGrath Moonlit Seduction, that cool brown, and that's going to be a lot of my structure color. So I'm going to take a little smaller fluffy brush and dip into that, tap it off. Do not blow on it. A lot of people do that, but one, if you're trying to make a diffused smoky eye, it's going to add spit, and spit is going to make it really hard to blend. And two, it's just not sanitary. So especially if you're someone trying to do makeup on someone else, do not do that. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to buff this starting in this corner here. Because again, remember the first place you put it is the strongest color it's going to be. And then you can always blend out from there. So blending brush will be your best friend in this case, but we're just kind of placing some color right now. You can do it pretty messy. If you go a little too far, you can always use your finger and buff it out. I'm going to grab a little more, tap it off, and then just add a little extra depth right in here. So if you can see where I'm kind of placing that, I like to look at myself in the mirror and double check if it's gone high enough. And I want it a little bit higher right up in here, and I want it to pull out a little bit more. That's my personal preference. And then I'm going to take just a clean brush, a bigger fluffy brush, and buff in here. So that's the main structure to the top. I'm also going to take a small pencil brush, or you could use your pinky finger and pick some of that color up, same gray-brown, and work that just right underneath here. So this is going to start our definition. You can also bring it up a little bit. This brush is more dense, so it's going to pick up more product. See, it's a little bit darker. I like to blend with my pinky finger so you can't see the edges as much. So that's that. So I'm just going to match that side up with this eye, and we'll be right back. Okay, now we get to go to the fun part. So we've done our structure products. Again, it does not have to be perfect. You can take your finger and buff anything out if it's sticking out funky, whatever. And then I'm going to take that blue-brown shade that I was talking about on my finger, whatever finger you feel comfortable with. Be careful because with shimmer shades, sometimes there's a little extra fallout, so you might want to tap it on the back of your hand just to press it in. And then I'm going to use a mirror and I'm going to press this over my entire lid. But look how pretty already that is. And I find with colors this shimmery, the finger works best. You can use a damp brush, but I want this to be easy for you, and that's a little bit more advanced as far as not being able to blend it after you've placed it down, where keeping it dry makes it a lot easier. So I'm just placing this on my movable lid. So right now it's up to my crease. And this I'm kind of pressing down and then lightly moving, just to make sure it hits wherever I want to. Okay, then I'm going to use that same bigger blending brush. Same, doesn't have, it still has a little color left on it, but I haven't added anything to it. And I'm going to buff around the whole thing just to make sure that there's no harsh edges where that shimmer is. I'm going to be adding more shimmer back to it though, because when you buff, sometimes you lose a little bit of that shine, and that is what's so interesting about this color. So same technique, just adding the shimmer back where I want it, which for me is right in the center, but you can see how much that pops, and then working my way up. Beautiful color. And it just catches the eye when you look. You can't really tell what kind of color it is, which is why I like these shades that have a little bit of shift to them. If I'm going to blend any more, do not touch the center, just the edges, because you don't want to lose all that shimmer you just did. And then I'm going to go with my pinky finger and do this underneath. So I'm taking my mirror really high, look up, and go in with the pinky finger. I like using a finger for this step because it's going to add that really lived-in grungy look. Again, up high, pinky finger. And I'm being pretty haphazard with this because I just want it to feel cool. I'm going to take this brush, and this can be our blending brush underneath. Same blending brush we've been using. And I'm just making sure that everything still has this upward-outward lift. Then I'm going to go in with this kind of first shade here just for a light highlight on the eyebrow. This is not going to be overly shimmery, but it does have a pearlescence to it. I'm just using my same blending brush so that they all mix in together nicely. But if your brush is too dark, or if you're using a darker shade, you're going to want to dust it off first, or use a fresh, clean brush. Like that. And then I'm making sure my pinky finger doesn't have any more dark color, and I'm going in with that purpley lavender shade right on the inner corner. It's super sparkly, so I'm going to kind of do the same thing where I'm looking up into it and tapping in here, just making sure I get that lightness there. Same thing on the other eye. And I'm okay if it kind of mixes in with those darker colors or almost looks like I'm crying. I think that gives the grungy look as well. Okay, so we're actually gearing up to our final steps here. So I'm going to go in with an eyelash curler. I love an eyelash curler. I think it makes or breaks your eyelashes, especially if you're like me with the straightest eyelashes on earth. I have the Shiseido one. It's a really good classic one. I'm actually going to use a smaller mirror so I don't strain my wrists holding that heavy palette. And I want to make sure that when I'm curling my lashes, I get really deep to the roots, and I'm going to kind of squeeze a couple times like this. This eyelash curler is straighter. It's not so curved, so it doesn't ever pinch your inner or outer corner. You can take your eyelash curler and go right to the base and roots of your lashes and lightly squeeze a few different times. You can hold it for a minute, but you don't want to stop there. You want to lightly squeeze, working your way out to the tips. That way, you're not getting an L-shaped lash, you're getting a nice curve. Then I go back one more time to the roots to squeeze again. I don't know if you can see the difference there, but especially with mascara, you'll see a huge, huge difference. And I do this before I put eyeliner on, because I am going to put eyeliner in the waterline and tightline. And when you curl your lashes, sometimes it takes off your eyeliner. So I like to do this first. I switch hands to my left hand, which is not normal, but that's just what I got used to doing. So bear with me. Again, working our way out. And then one more time at the base of the lashes. Then I check them. You can look in kind of the side and see, does that look like the curve I want? Perfect. I'm going to go in with that same eyeliner, aka lip liner in Chestnut by MAC, and use this as my waterline and tightline color. I like it because it's just an off color from black, so that's going to be my personal pick. So I'm going to go in right here and close my eye onto the pencil, so the pencil's pointing up a bit, and just wiggle. And that's going to give that beautiful depth up at the top there. Again, closing your eye, wiggling, like that. Then for the waterline, I like to take make sure it's clean, finger, and put that kind of on my cheek here lightly, and pull down a tiny bit, and then work my way in like that. But you can see there's a white line in between, so I want to make sure I also go and sketch where that white line is to make sure there's no white showing still. You can kind of squeeze your eye like that if that's more comfortable. You just want to aim at the base of those lashes and really get in there. So that's going to give extra depth, and then I like to go back in one more time at the waterline. You can see the difference there. It makes the eye much more intense looking. You don't have to do this. If you're someone that's worried it's going to close up your eyes, that's okay. You can skip this. And again, you could have done any color. So a lighter color might not require something as intense, really close to the eye there. Same thing. Waterline first, then just kind of go in and do little dots aiming at the lashes to fill that in. And then you can always blend a little bit right there, just to make sure everything looks nice and cohesive. Mascara. This is going to really tie things together here. I like to do my bottom lashes first, because if you do your top and then you go to do your bottoms, you kind of imprint on your top of your lid and all the work that you just did. So I'm going to actually take my mirror up high and go like this and put my chin down. That way I can get here with my mascara. The mascara I chose today is a Pat McGrath one as well. It's Fetish mascara, and it just gives the most volume of mascaras that I have currently. I'm not usually a huge mascara girl, but for smoky eyes, I love a really chunky lash look. So I recommend, if you're someone who likes to play with makeup, having maybe a more everyday natural mascara that you have on deck, and then also one that's more for that really chunky lash. And mascara is so personal, so play around with the ones you like. This one's a fiber brush, so it's going to actually really coat the lashes into a little moussier of a formula. So if you like a little drier formula, you might like this one. It's not super wet. My lashes are so straight that if I use a wet mascara, they're going to fall straight down. But this one seems to hold my curl well. So again, I'm kind of wiggling into the base just to make sure they're nice and dark, like how the shadow is, dark right by the eye, and then lightly working my way up and out. Making sure that I have those corners hit so that I still have that shape to my eye. And then let's match. And this is just one coat. Sometimes I'll go in with two. Let me look at myself here. Might just do a tiny bit, just to make sure it's nice and black. Like that. For lips, I chose the Rouge Gel Lip Liner from Sephora Collection in the color number 28, Sink or Suede. It's been super popular on TikTok recently, which I rarely visit, but I've heard. I'm going to use this on the natural ridge of my lips, so a little bit further out than where my color goes, but it's still where my natural lip line is. And you can go a little more over under here and at the top. I would avoid overdrawing too much on the sides here. And I'm going to fill in the whole lips because this is going to be my main lip color, and just topping with a gloss. But see, it's that cool toned, plummy nude. I'm just blending the edges with my finger to make it look a little more natural. And this is a creamy pencil formula, so I am going to blot it as well. Just to make sure there's not too much excess. And then I am taking this beautiful lip gloss. This is the Kaleidos Untamed Glow Glossy Lip Glaze in Free Fall. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a shimmery silver. It's really cool, especially for that 90s or early 2000s type of a lip look. So I'm topping with this. Gives a really beautiful shine. It's super comfortable, not sticky at all. I have a few colors of these. And it's pretty much a clear with silver glitter, so that's why I put that lip liner on first, just to give us the shade that we would like. And that is the lip look. So the last thing I like to do is just assess everything. So I like to look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, do I need more blush? Is there any fallout underneath my eyes? Things like that. I feel like I could use with a tiny bit of that blush bronzer, which is the Pearl Bliss bronzer slash blush shade from Kaleidos. So I'm going to tap my brush into that and just add a little bit of that kind of underneath where my blush goes and then onto the cheeks. Because sometimes we lose the color in our cheeks once we put our lips and eyes on. And I feel like this look could handle a little bit more. Kind of reassess. And I think that's pretty there. So that is a smoky eye. We only used a couple shades, but just to show you some options of how you can do a smoky eye, you can do the same shape with any color. So pretty fun. But I hope you liked this look. I am going to take my hair down and do my intro and do all that, so you'll be able to see the entire look with hair at the beginning. I'm sure you've already seen that. But I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you subscribe to me. It helps me out a lot, and it just is kind of fun to see you guys subscribing. I really appreciate it since I've only had one video, but I hope this was helpful for some people and answered maybe some questions. But please let me know anything that you might need, any questions down below or things that you've been wanting to see, whether it's specific products or techniques. I would love to help out. And again, my name is Michaela, so thank you so much. Subscribe down below. Bye.